Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this VidCon Now VidTalks session. I'm Brendan Gahan and I'll be your moderator today. Real quick background on me, I'm a partner and chief social officer at Mechanism. We're an independent creative agency and I've been working with creators since 2006. The title of today's talk is Make Money Creating. Because more and more companies than ever are popping up to service creators. The creator economy is an incredibly hot space right now. And we'll be talking to one of those entrepreneurs building in this ecosystem, John Hu, the founder of Stan. And we're going to discuss a little bit about where he thinks the creator economy is headed, why he got into the space, and what the future really looks like. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in to the audience chat, and we'll do our best to get to them in real time. With that, I'll hand over to John to introduce himself, and then we'll dive on in.
Great. Well, it's good to meet everyone virtually here. Brendan, thanks for having me on. A quick little background on myself. I had a winding road to become a content creator and then an entrepreneur that's working in the creator economy space in terms of my life path. But essentially moved to the States when I was pretty young, was an immigrant kid, grew up with a single mom, did all the typical Asian American immigrant things, did like math and CS, like nothing creative whatsoever. Studied computer science in undergrad and finance, and then cold called my way to a job at Goldman Sachs. And so I did a couple of years on the dark side in finance and investment banking. Then did a couple of years in venture capital and was like, oh my gosh, finance I thought was like this cool thing. Why am I so unfulfilled? And so like kind of just decided to leave and actually went off to Stanford Business School, where for some reason I found myself starting to create content on TikTok. And after a couple more viral TikToks later, realized just how hard it is if I wanted to do this full time to actually get to do this full time, unless, I sold out to a bunch of big brands. And so that was crazy enough, like less than a year ago, and started building Stan, which I guess we'll talk about today, which is basically the infrastructure, the software for any content creator to actually make money working for themselves and working with their audience. Because I actually just built it, the first version, to like build my own account and help me monetize my own account. And since then, it's been a really wonderful journey. And we've gotten to help a lot of folks actually quit their day jobs to start creating full time, all through helping them work with their audiences. So yeah, that's my story.
Awesome. And to that point, do you want to actually maybe give the audience a little bit of insight into Stan and sort of where you guys are at in terms of product and formal launch and stuff?
Yeah, so we're kind of like soft formally launching. We're just working with all of our favorite creators, which is why this job is so fun. In terms of what we are, like we're basically your ability to have a checkout through your link in bio. And so a good example is we work with some of the largest TikTokers out there. One of my favorites is a woman named Tatiana Londino. She's got 2 million followers and she is like the real estate coach. She's like the best. And so what she was doing before was just only working with brands, right? But she really wanted to help her audience more at scale through coaching to like empower anyone to have financial independence. Well, through Stan, which is basically like her Shopify site, it took her 5 minutes to set up. It's like a link in bio site. She can offer direct bookings through a coaching calendar. So you can like literally just swipe your credit card and have time on your calendar with like your favorite creator. Or she can send like personalized video requests, kind of like a Cameo, for a lot cheaper for her, like a lot less margin. Cameo charges a lot. All in one place, and it like really takes your no time to set up, and the management of it we fulfill and kind of help automate. But Stan is really just like the out of the box business for any creator. It takes you 5 minutes to set up. Stanwith.me is the URL. So yeah.
Awesome. Now the space has been so hot. I feel like the last like 12 months, give or take. Like the creator economy is like the hottest buzzword in the investment space. Why do you think there's so much hype at this moment in time?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a confluence of factors. I think broadly the pandemic accelerated a lot of trends. We were all stuck at home just like watching TikTok. And so everyone was becoming like an at-home pandemic creator. I think you also have a lot of different factors around, even for me personally, like Gen Z millennials, we just like want to work for ourselves. Like why I don't want to go work for some big corporation and like churn out a desk job. Like why can't I be a content creator and pursue what I'm passionate about and actually like figure out a way to make money out of that? And so that plus the pandemic, plus just like growing connectivity and all of these wonderful social platforms in terms of the algorithms that they can use to help us discover niche content for ourselves, are all kind of like compounding at the same time. But in terms of kind of how hot the industry is now, I'm unsure whether that'll continue over the next year or two, but the long-term trend, the creator economy is here to stay. And I think it's the future of work.
Now, having worked in VC before starting your own company, what do you think the perception was, before 12 months ago within the VC community versus now? Because I feel like it was like a little bit of a blind spot. Maybe I'm a little bit biased in thinking that, but curious your take.
Totally. So it's funny. I mean, this won't be a diatribe on the VC industry, but things aren't hot until they are, and they missed a lot of the waves. I think, I grew up on the old school YouTubers like Phil DeFranco, Ryan Higa, like all those guys. And even then, even a couple of years ago, Patreon was really the only company building the space, and Jack and his company have done a wonderful job. Even then, it was like, if you think about the typical VC demographic, a lot of folks are a little bit older. They might skew towards a certain kind of socioeconomic status and what have you. And they're like, well, how do you make money making videos on the internet? Like, they didn't even understand making videos on the internet. And so with that, what happens is, like, 2 years ago, to even think of yourself as a content creator wasn't really a thing. Influencers, however, the term influencer, which I know has some negative implications, was starting to become something that VCs cared about. But this whole idea of a content creator, because so much of the VC industry wasn't really plugged in to this particular niche, it was very much so like, it was not cool. And then a year ago, it just really, really blew up. But as you see with most VC trends, like, everyone hops on the bandwagon. And the creator economy alongside crypto are kind of the two big bandwagon trends right now in VC.
Kind of building upon that, knowing a lot, it does feel like a bandwagon or like a bubble. How do you think that will play out? Are there going to be a few winners? How long do you think this is going to last? Like, what does sort of the future look like to you as somebody who's building in it right now?
If I knew the actual answer, then I would be very cool one day. And this is like forecasting what the price of a stock will be one day. I think that there will be multiple winners. I don't think this is a winner-take-all market. The platforms underneath which serve the media are winner-take-all markets, right? The network effects of a YouTube or a TikTok. But in terms of the layers that actually help your creators, like actually work with your creators to help them build their business, there's so many different kinds of creators. Like, this is why I love my job, is like, every creator is different. Like, a creator who posts like, YouTube vlogs, who has tens of millions of followers, is so different from a middle-class creator who teaches, how do you actually like learn Japanese? Like, we had a client on board today who makes a ton of money with just 10,000 followers, and she just only teaches Japanese, right? And so the needs of that creator and the needs of the large YouTuber, or honestly even the person posting thirst traps and like building a funnel to their OnlyFans, there's so many unique players in this ecosystem. They're all empowering people to make money working for themselves. And so as we think about literally work, like, all of us in the knowledge economy or the passion economy, like transitioning from our day jobs, our 9-to-5s, into like working for ourselves, we're all going to have different needs in that. And so I think a lot of folks will win, and this is only the beginning, but it is a long-term game.
Yeah. To that point, just sort of building upon it, I was doing some research recently, and I found that there were, and I dug up this stat a few months ago, so it's probably much higher by now, but I think 20,500 YouTube channels with over 1 million subscribers. So like, people tend to like sort of gravitate towards the big ones, but to your point, like, there are so many niches, and you don't even have to have 1 million subscribers to make like a very good living. Like, if you have a few thousand that are core followers, you can build a business off of that. And I think people sort of get caught up in the kind of whoever is sort of analogous to celebrities, like your Mr. Beast and David Dobrik's, et cetera. So I think that's a great point to bring up. We've got an audience question here from Kimberly S. It feels like there are a lot of buzzwords in this industry these days that don't have a lot of substance behind them. How do companies actually assist creators without the nonsense?
I'm laughing at this because it seems like every Silicon Valley tech bro and all of their garage best friends are trying to build for the creator economy and like make a quick buck off creators, which frankly pisses me off. And that's where a lot of the buzzwords come from. In terms of how a company should actually assist a creator in this nonsense, this is my personal mantra, is just help them rather than try to sell them things. And that's the mentality we have here at Stan, which is like, we'll help you think about curating your content, because, that's towards the longevity of your creator business. And all these buzzwords will flush through at a time. Like, people are still understanding like what a subscription is. The market's still really nascent. And so essentially what companies should do is they should cut down to the very basis of what like the customer pain point is, which is two main things. One is, how the heck do I grow my audience and continue to keep them engaged? And two is, how do I make money off of that audience? And if you're solving those two problems, it doesn't matter what buzzword, you're like using, like that'll all cut through the noise over time, long-term. And the market itself will understand in the same way, like e-courses 10 years ago were like, what was an e-course? But now that's normalized. And so as long as you're staying true to your North Star of like actually helping the creator, like actually helping them and not just trying to sell them stuff, like you'll be okay. So.
Awesome. And what do you think the biggest challenges are, or what are the biggest challenges that you're facing in sort of helping the creators?
Yeah.
Big question, sorry.
So there are many challenges. The one that is the most fun for us, and I think where we're really differentiated, because I am a creator as well, and the team we're building, they're all creators as well, is it's rooted in our empathy for how hard this job is, which is no one has any idea what to do in terms of like what business they should be building. And I mean that in like the most exciting way possible, which is like we are at the forefront of an entirely new economy. What that means is like no one is like, well, maybe we should do merch and like this, but it's not like an e-commerce business where you're like, you should have 80% of your channel in wholesale, 80% direct to consumer. Your SKUs should look like, 25% should be invested in like your t-shirts versus your pants. Like it's not an established business, right? People are figuring out, should I do like a digital membership or an e-course or like, and so with all this confusion, there's also so much opportunity. And so the hardest thing for any creator to figure out, which we love helping them figure out, is like, what is your perfect combination of products? Like every creator is different, which means your product needs to look different from everyone else's. It needs to be really authentic to you because that's why people love you. And that's kind of exactly what we're trying to figure out is how do you templatize that at scale for every creator in an embedded software product, as opposed to just like really consulting folks.
Yeah. Now, in that process of building out the products and working with creators, have you found any niches already becoming overly saturated?
The link in bio space is really crowded and commoditized. There are a couple players that have kind of sprung out, and we'll see if they continue to spring out. It's just a tough space. That space is kind of broadly a market pain point of like, I need something to channel my followers into, but the current design of like 7 different links and like sending them, like your followers get choice paralysis, that I think that market will shake out. But other than that, I think every segment of the creator economy of like figuring out some way to monetize is now there's a pain point that someone's trying to solve or try to get at, whether it's like one-to-one calls or live streaming or memberships, what have you. So,
right on. We've got another audience question here from Thomas. How do I know if the service is worth the cost?
It's a good question, Thomas. So as a creator, our number one limitation is us. Like it's our time, like, and our mental energy. Like creating content is exhausting. And so how I think about in my own personal creator business outside of Stan, how I think about which products to use, it has to bubble up to what products I want to sell. And so like, an e-course provider broadly, like a Kajabi or Teachable might be a great idea if I want to sell an e-course, but that's like not super authentic to the content I create. And so it's not worth the cost. In terms of how I think about like a product that I do want to use, for example, Stan, which helps me like have a recurring membership with my followers where I can like constantly coach them, constantly like text them and like check in on how they're doing and also just send them like weekly tips. That for me should deliver 10x the value that I'm paying at least. You can think about, 5x or 3x, but for me, like this early in this market, I would look for 10x. And then that's kind of the value we seek to at least provide. And one way to do that is, for our product, at least we take a percentage take rate of any net new revenue, right? It's tough to pay out of pocket as a creator when you're still trying to bootstrap your business. But if someone's like, hey, use this for free, we'll only like take money if we make you money, I think that's a good product to use.
Which is a nice plug for Stan.
Just look for businesses that are clearly like creator centric and not like profit centric, and I think those people will take care of you.
Yeah, it's a good filter. We've got another great audience question from a creator. Jonathan asks, can something like Stan be helpful for a small creator? Do I need to have a huge following, or should I begin to integrate this as part of my current growth? Then I assume he says it meant my current growth.
Gotcha. So I don't want this to turn into an ad for Stan. We can talk more about the industry. The short answer is 100% yes. Stan is helpful. One of our most lucrative creators, and this isn't about Stan, this is about like any creator. One of our most lucrative creators has 7,000 followers. Like this is what you were saying before, Brendan, about like 1,000 true fans. Like you just need 1,000 people to pay you $5 a month for you to have like a 60K salary, right? That's enough for you to go full time. And then if you haven't paid $10 a month, you're making a 6-figure salary. And so our creator, she has 7,000 followers. She uses Stan to book coaching clients who pay her like $500 a session, $300 a session, or she can sell a masterclass for $1,500 for 12 weeks. Or she also sells like a couple of digital downloads that are passive income for her. Like she's just 7,000 followers, of which she converts about 500 of them. If you have high conversion, if you have 500 followers, but they're 500 clients and they pay you $1,000 a year, Stan, yes, but like broadly, you as a creator, like yes, you can like totally make a full-time living, and that's what's so exciting about this space. You don't need millions of followers.
100%. And so many niches are monetizable. I have a friend who started like consulting with a woman who was doing astrology, and he helped her convert like the YouTube channel into an email list and selling personalized astrology over email. And like she had, I think, only 10, 20,000 and was able to make a really good living off of that. So it's pretty wild, whatever niche. Like I'm constantly discovering obscure categories and businesses in this space. It's pretty wild. Kind of building off that a little bit, what do you think it is that is the key for like those smaller creators that allows them to monetize successfully? Like, have you seen sort of like an X factor that maybe they have that you can sort of identify as a commonality?
Yeah. I mean, it's the key for any successful small business, which is you got to be a marketer at the end of the day. You got to like have some commercial muscle to you, which can feel really awkward. Like to be like, hey, y'all, like subscribe to my product in my link in bio. Like at the end of the day, but if you position that properly, which is like, hey, y'all, like I'm trying to create content full time. Like, please, like, if you love my content, like would love to work with you, but also support me. Like, here's one of my products. That like initial muscle of like wanting to build a business is required to even be successful in the first place. But the folks, let's say with a smaller audience, who do the best are the ones who have really high engagement, right? I think of this on like the best way to measure this is like a like to view ratio or a like to follower account ratio of like, there are people who have 2,000 followers, but they get like 1,000 likes because their content is so helpful or so value additive. And those are the folks who do really well. But what you also don't see behind the scenes for those creators is like, they're really managing their fan base. Like they're not just like posting content, they're DMing those people. They're like checking in on how their lives are going. They know about them. They're always responding to the comments. Like maybe they're following people back who are like their true fans. Because those fans will like, they'll live and die by you. They will like share your stuff all the time. They'll comment more, they'll blow you up. They're really grateful for that. And I think a lot of small folks who do really well have those two things as one, commercial sense, and two, like really engage their followers on a one-to-one basis as much as they can.
Yeah, it seems like the personal connection is like one of the things I've consistently seen sort of on the advertising side. Like those folks like vloggers, for example, like the level of engagement and participation that they can kind of generate is oftentimes insane because they've invited people into their lives and they feel like they really know them and are invested in them. So that's a good call out. We've been talking a lot about sort of like the positive things within the ecosystem. I would love to hear some sort of like contrarian points of view. Like, what are assumptions in this space that you see a lot of people, or trends you see people talking about that you feel based off of your personal experience in this space and building the space are just so off the mark? What are people getting wrong?
Being a creator is sexy is like the biggest myth in the world. Fame is awful in general, like, but the mental health consequences associated with being a creator are just atrocious. Like to like constantly have anxiety over creating more content, being on the content hamster wheel, being only as good as your next best hit, always having to like be more extreme every time. That in and of itself is like awful on creators' mental health. And so this whole idea of like, I want to be a creator. It's going to be so great. I'm going to have millions of followers. I'm going to be famous. Like that's the biggest myth out there. And then when you compound like the actual, how hard it is to be a creator with like the social consequences of like, trolls, especially like racism or sexism, what have you, like all these awful things that can come out on the internet. I think folks are really underestimating how tough it is to be a creator. And I think one thing that folks that are building in the space don't recognize as much is like, we don't know how long the average creator's career is going to be. Like, can it actually be 5 to 10 plus years? I think my favorite comparison to make is I think the average creator's life cycle, for better or worse, will be around the average NFL player's life cycle, right? The same reason why we have like ACL injuries in the NFL that take someone out, or the same reasons, we'll have some mental health struggles to be solved as well for the creator economy. But if anyone is, a mental health professional who's passionate about this idea and wants to work with creators, I've been looking for a company to invest in this space. So reach out.
Awesome. Now you've been dabbling as a creator quite a bit yourself. You've been sort of building in public as a creator on TikTok.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that, and sort of like, how has it helped you or hurt you? What have your experiences been?
Yeah, I mean, number one, it just gives you a deep amount of empathy for how hard it is. Like, to post a video and be like, oh shoot, is the TikTok algorithm gonna like me? Like, I don't know, like overanalyzing how many views you're gonna get in the first 30 seconds or like minute, all the way to like, just like thinking about how do you craft a narrative, how do you build a brand. All these things are super hard for creators. And I live it every day too, right? We're just vlogging my startup journey and like getting to work with the coolest creators on the internet. For context, I guess, for folks who don't follow my account is at jayhoovy, JAYHOVY. And through that, like, we just have fun. And that's the best part of like creating content, is like posting videos that we're proud of, that we're passionate about, like telling our story of like how we're empowering creators. And that also gives me the joyful sense of like why we all love to be creators in the first place. So it's just been a really wonderful journey to get to make content on TikTok, and I feel very blessed for it.
Awesome. Yeah, I can speak for me personally, dabbling in TikTok. I started mine, almost a year ago. And the sort of like pressure from it is very real. It's almost harder when you generate a little bit of success, because then you like have that sort of like influence you, and you kind of like almost find yourself copying yourself, and it's like hard to navigate, and there's more pressure. You've got an audience. It's really, it is mentally taxing. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I still remember on that. Oh.
What's that?
I was just gonna say, I still remember on that, like the first time I had a viral video and the next video I posted like absolutely flopped. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And then that's just like a microcosm of how hard this job is. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I think it's worth pointing out, I feel like oftentimes people have this perception of TikTok as being very much for kids and teens dancing and stuff. John and I actually met on TikTok. So yeah. I saw some data recently. I think something like 80% of TikTok's audience is ages 18 plus. So definitely a significant sort of older demographic there in the US. Okay, we've got another audience question from Penelope. John, do you prefer being a content creator or an entrepreneur more? And is there really a difference between the two? If so, where do you draw those lines between those roles?
That's a really good insight by Penelope. If you're a content creator, you are an entrepreneur. You're a solopreneur probably starting out, and you run a small business. And so I get to say that I get to be both. In terms of how I would think about drawing the line is like, I love creating content. And if you think about yourself as a content creator, your content is the lead generation piece of your business. And so for me, the like status quo entrepreneur side of things, like the legacy side, is like Stan, the product we're building, that helps all creators. And so my content, like what I do is I do two things. One, I like talk about our startup to help any budding entrepreneur think about like how they should build their startup and like the struggles we went through or currently going through. And then two, like helping creators actually figure out how to monetize their business. And so for me as a content creator, what I love is like telling our story about Stan, and then using that also as a way to evangelize the brand of Stan, the product, which is more so like the legacy entrepreneur side of my business, where we're like building a software product, right? We're like coding, like literally just late night coding, like fixing all the bugs. And so that's kind of where the two roles start to demarcate, is like, if you think about your business as a content creator, you'll have like your content that you'll be scripting. Like this morning I was scripting and filming. And then later on you'll like switch hats, which is hard, right? Context switch to like, what is my product? So a good example of that might be Emma Chamberlain, who, Brendan, you were mentioning like relatability in vlogs. Like Emma's a queen. Like we love her for that. But she has to like think about Chamberlain coffee, which is very different from like, hey, how do I make an awesome vlog and like how do I keep my fans happy?
Yeah. Now, one thing I'd be curious, with you building products to support creators, where are you sort of seeing the most traction? Is it with TikTok, YouTube? Where do you see sort of like creators, benefiting the most right now?
The broad answer is everywhere. There's opportunity everywhere to build. If you're to be more nuanced, TikTok is still kind of the Wild West. And so you have folks popping up overnight and becoming creators. Be like, what do I do with this? Whereas like, if you're on YouTube or Instagram, like you grind it for your following count, right? And so Instagram, I think in general is a little bit more mature. And so it's a little bit harder to cut through the noise in some ways. Whereas TikTok, I think there's a lot more opportunity. Even Clubhouse early, I can't speak towards Clubhouse now. It seems like there's some ambivalent opinions there. But what you'll find is newer platforms have newer creators and therefore more opportunity for innovation. People aren't stuck in their ways. And so that's where I would kind of focus on.
Right on. Now, given sort of the investment in the space, what do you think is going to be the filter for the companies that make it versus those that are going to fall off?
The one true North Star that keeps me comfortable at night, that like lets me get a little bit of sleep, is that like we're just building to help folks. And like as long as we keep that North Star, like we're gonna obsess over what it's like to be a creator, about all the little pain points and frustrations we all have, like in like drafting our scripts and like filming and production and editing, all the way to like, how do I turn this into a business? How do I generate leads? How do I build a website? As long as we keep that as our North Star as a company, we're going to be okay. Like we're just going to solve problems and we're going to be okay because we're caring about solving problems. And so if the company is focused on doing that, this is independent of the creator economy. This is for anyone. I think they'll be okay in the long run. But folks who are just like trying to make a quick buck or doing it for their ego, like good luck to you. You're going to burn out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, just a heads up for the audience, we've got about 3 to 5 minutes. So if you've got any additional questions, feel free to drop them in now. Otherwise, we'll start to wrap up. But this is sort of related and maybe overly broad, so feel free to adjust it. But where do you think this is all headed? How big can this get? And for context, like going back to Clubhouse, a few months, and this is when it was sort of like at its height. I was in a room with like Mr. Beast and the Night Media folks, and somebody asked if they thought that a creator would like IPO at some point, and like somebody was saying, a couple of years ago, we would have said that's insane. But now, while it's not on the like immediate horizon, you can sort of see how something like that might happen. I don't know. Do you have any big lofty predictions along those lines that you'd like to throw out there?
Yeah. So the last stat that I saw in terms of how large the creator economy is it was in the tens of billions, like low tens of billions. I for sure see the creator economy being trillions of dollars one day, right? What the creator economy is just the human economy. That sounds kind of lofty, but like becoming a content creator is just like expressing yourself as a human being. Whether it's like for me, like I post nerdy finance and business content because like that's my expertise and I love that. Whereas other folks just like dance and art. Basically, we're just taking all of humanity, what we enjoy as activities, and like moving onto the internet. So all of that GDP, all of that economic value that used to be on offline, we're now moving online. And instead of connecting you with just, let's say you're a dancer in New York City, like even just New York City, 6 million, we're changing that from 6 million to 6 billion people. So you multiply your like total possible value by a magnitude of 1,000. And so the creator economy itself, like, is just like humans moving online, being creative online as opposed to offline, which means they have a lot larger of an audience. And so the creator economy itself, like, we'll definitely see IPOs of creators. We're going to see way more innovations we haven't even seen. This is a multi-trillion-dollar market, and this is just the future of work. So
that's a good point to end on. The creator economy is a multi-trillion-dollar market. I love that. Sorry, what's that?
Heard it here first.
Yeah. As we kind of wind down, I want to shout out John's TikTok and Twitter, Jayhoovy, JAYHOOVY. His content's really great. Definitely knows his stuff.
Thank you.
I don't know, John, is there anything in particular you want to shout out or any sort of parting thoughts, parting wisdom?
Yeah, if you're a creator, like trying to figure out how to make money off of your account, there's nothing I love more than like watching people's content and brainstorming like, hey, you should monetize X, Y, and Z way. So just reach out to me on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. I should probably Twitter, Instagram for DMs. Once again, my handle is JAYHOOVY. Like, would love to just like shoot the shit and figure out how you can help like monetize, whether it's through like specific brands you want to work with or just like how you want to monetize your audience directly. Happy to help out. So
awesome, cool. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap this session up. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Feel free to hit us up on Twitter and ask any other questions. But thanks for tuning in, and John, thanks for doing this.
Yep. See y'all.
Peace.